Good evening. Let's resume the third technical session. So we have with us CAMP Vijay Kumar, Central Council Member, CA Joman K. George, Regional Council Member, and the speaker of the session, CA R. Dinesh, is also along with us. So may now request CAMP Vijay Kumar, sir, to give his special address.
Greetings to all. Sincere wishes to CAR Dinesh. Thanks for his time today to address all the members of the region. And pleased to meet you, Joman, once again. Trust all of you are safe and all near and dear healthy. Compliments to SARC team, ably held by DC for such a wonderful conference. Thanks to SARC, all the other four regions are planning similar online regional conference this year. Otherwise, they were almost on the verge of giving it up. I'm very impressed with both the topics and the speakers, beginning with our Honorable Finance Minister inaugurating a conference. Sincere efforts and commitment to add value have resulted in this outcome of an outstanding and enviable conference. I, of course, miss the networking and meeting of each of you in person. As regards the topic, business and profession, I have not had opportunity to discuss with Mr. Dinesh on the content of his address. I will nevertheless share my 2 cents on this topic. Business and profession have been historically differentiated on the following grounds. A, there was no written code of conduct for business, whereas there is a well-written code of ethics for professionals, which also constitutes basis for disciplinary action. B, businesses could advertise, but professions would not advertise. C, professions require skills and expertise in the area of practice, unlike business. Profession is about serving clients and business is about making profits. The times have changed now. A, businesses also have a regulatory or legislation driven code of conduct apart from their own internally defined code of conduct. For example, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has issued as early as 2019 for all businesses national voluntary guidelines for responsible business conduct, laying down about 9 principles. Apart from that, we are aware about the code of conduct requirements for directors, etc., inside the Companies Act. And most successful businesses and business houses like the TVS, of which I'm proud that I was part of that organization. My father served his entire 37 years of his career at the TVS group. My brother also served in that group. And having experienced that groups of this longevity and respect are there only because of the code of conduct, which right from the principal shareholders have followed in building the business. B, profession is now seeking enablement of business, including our chartered accountancy profession. We are witnessing the same already happening in the medical profession with the high level of corporatization in the medical field. C, businesses are successful only based on skills and deep expertise and are no different from professions in that sense. Successful business persons are extremely knowledgeable in all aspects of their business, and this distinguishes them from the rest, and in most cases, it is the competitive advantage. Capital is accessible to all, technology can be bought, men, material, and machines can be sourced, but it is the businessman's knowledge and deep understanding which enables him to leverage all of this and create value. Lastly, both businesses and profession are focused on customer satisfaction, staying relevant, creating value to all the stakeholders, and thereby wealth creation. For businesses in particular, large global businesses and their investors have moved away now from profit as a goal to triple bottom line with huge focus on sustainability. SDG, EHS, environment, health, safety, etc., are the key matrices which are chased by businesses. Given that accounting profession is also becoming capital intensive, some of you might like to disagree, but let me state that with the extent of digitalization which is happening, the accounting professionals need to invest in IT tools for audit. And there's a strong debate in US in the last 4 years on having a structure for professional accounting firms where there are financial partners and knowledge partners. Knowledge partners will be held responsible for the professional work. Financial partners contribute capital and get the benefit of the capital deployed in various tools, etc., for performing the work. While the concept will take some time to get tested, there's an active support in its favor. And in UK, the Sir Bryden report, which came out last year, has called for a clear separation of legal structure between assurance practice and non-assurance practice. All accounting regulators across the world are closely evaluating this recommendation. Too early to state, but this might bring a bit of balance to keep assurance more as a profession and non-assurance services as a business, just as consulting companies and other services companies are businesses. Sincere thanks to each of you for your patient listening. I really miss the networking and meeting each of you in person. Stay safe, stay accountable, and happy learning right across the conference. Thank you, DC, for the invite, and over to you, Subha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking time, and we miss seeing you in person as well this year. We wish you a safe travel, sir. We now invite...
Log out. Otherwise, I'd love to hear you. While in the cab, I'll still try to log in and hear you.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay sir.
We now request Mr. CA Joman K. George, Regional Council Member, to introduce the speaker.
Respected Chairman of the Southern India Regional Council, my very dear friend, Dungar Chand Jain, the Chief Architect of this wonderful virtual 4-day conference, so meticulously planned and brilliantly executed. Secretary Abhishek Murali, the very revered speaker for this session on a topic which is very, very exciting, business and profession, the interplay. MPV has laid down his the platform very brilliantly. In a short time, he was at the Jaipur airport and still working for the institute and for its membership. Very, very esteemed colleagues, invited guests, delegates, and friends. I'm extremely delighted to be with you this evening, though virtually, to be part of this wonderful conference. And the joy and the excitement is doubled when I'm given the honor of introducing before you professional extraordinaire and a business icon, Chartered Accountant R. Dinesh, Managing Director of TVS Supply Chain Solutions, and also the Joint Managing Director of TV Sundaram Iyengar and Sons Private Limited. Having graduated in commerce, qualified as a Chartered Accountant, also a qualified cost accountant, Mr. Dinesh was part of the group, and he is the 4th generation TVS family member. And in 2004, his own brainchild, often referred to as a game changer in the fraternity and in the business communities, he started TVS Supply Chain. And in less than 14 years, he nurtured that company to become a $1 billion company by 2018. And the first company in the group to get private equity funding. The company has presence across continents, making it a truly global player, serving customers of 50 countries and employing 18,000 people and 2,500 people in UK alone. Currently, the companies under his management have a turnover of $2 billion US and employ more than 25,000 people. So he's a big boss, but very down to earth and very amiable. Precisely why he is with us this evening, taking time off his very, very demanding schedule. And he has set up real global operations and having expanded to the United States, the UK, Spain, Germany, China, Australia, and many other Asian and European countries. And with all that, awards and accolades have become a way of life for CA R. Dinesh. He started off glittering once being Emerging Entrepreneur Award by CIA in 2010, the Tycoon's Next Generation Entrepreneur Award in 2014, and EY's Services Category Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2017, and the latest being Icon of the Year from ICT Academy of Tamil Nadu in 2018. So who else can enlighten this elite audience of 3,200 plus chartered accountants on a topic like business and profession? I'm sure that his rich and varied experience, global experience and exposure on both sides of the table as a chartered accountant, as a CA student in his early days, and then doing ticking and finding fault with the accounts, and a part of a family which is epitome of good governance practices today, and aspirations to move ahead in the future, innovative ideas with unparalleled vision. He has created a new wave in the business world, and therefore we will look forward to having an electrifying session from Dinesh sir this evening. Sir, a big honor to introduce you to this August gathering and also to invite you to deliver your address. Honored. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joman sir. We now have the e-felicitation of the speaker. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you to Mr. Vijay Kumar. First of all, my congratulations to the organizers. I think I was just coming into the room, and I think I was one of those lucky ones, if I can say so, who is present in the studio itself. And I've been very impressed with the way in which the organization has gone ahead and this event has been organized. But most importantly, to be able to reach out to people right across the globe at a time when I think all of us have been, I would call, buffeted by the challenges which COVID-19 has brought to us. I think they all of us owe a big word of appreciation, congratulations, and a sincere thank you to everybody who has made this event possible. The topic which I decided to speak about was business and profession, and I thought I will divide that into two different sections. The first is about professionals in the business, and the second would be to talk about profession as a business. I think Mr. Vijay Kumar took some of the points which I had wanted to make in the profession as a business already, but I will come back to that a little bit later. So let me start with talking about the professional in business first. I think having been, I would call it a CA, has really helped me in the way in which I tend to look at business. And I still remember my, if I can call it auditor guru, Mr. CVS Manian, telling me that every problem you face in accounts can be solved by just drawing a T solution, meaning there is a debit and a credit. And that's how I used to go about trying to solve issues when it came to finding new solutions for the problems I face in the exams. But I think for me the most important learning from that was, how do I use the same model that there is going to be a repercussion or a reaction to every action we take when we become businessmen, whether we are CAs or not, of course, but having learned that from CA as knowledge which we can use. So if I look at the changes in the business which has taken place, I think obviously the professionals in business have also got to change. So what do I mean by that? And here I want to make it very clear, I'm not speaking about a difference between small and large or medium-sized companies. It doesn't matter. It speaks about for whatever we as CAs are going to be doing with the business we are involved in or with the business people we are going to be mentoring or working with. So if I look at that and start with, let us say, a small entrepreneur as an example, I think the world has changed from what I would call basic accounting help, financial numbering help, to actually becoming an analytical partner. So how do we in the profession actually start thinking about the business model of the entrepreneur? And let me give you a couple of examples. And here I would also like to add that when we look at business, I think we forget that business is fraught with risk. In my view, people from the CA profession have to actually play the role not just of a business analyst and a support to the business, but even more importantly, to actually help in terms of planning and mitigating the risk which is going to be involved in the business model. So let me give you a example of a large business first and then come to a smaller business. So I think all of you are aware that there were many infrastructure companies which built a business model which was based on very good inputs given by top management consultants like McKinsey or a Bain or somebody who actually came and told them that there will be going to be a certain amount of demand taking place, a growth in demand taking place year after year. I'll give you an example of a road, a project. They will say, the number of vehicles will be, 10 lakhs and going up every year by 25%. So based on that business model, a detailed financial model was developed and the financing was organized. And the financing was based on certain amount of borrowings. Now, all of us know, and I think even today that's a reality, what is happening to many of those businesses, because they have struggled with the lack of growth happening, which means that there was never a risk mitigation plan put for how are we going to manage if the demand is not as we have forecast. How are we going to get the financing model right? How are we going to survive in that world? And last but not the least, what is going to happen to the promoter who has actually set up this business? So if I step back for a minute, that's a very large investment portfolio where also financing is involved. But if I just apply that same logic to a small entrepreneur and look at it from what he or she is going to be looking at when they set up the business. Many times in the past, and of course, I worked, when I first started my business, I worked in a finance company. So I used to try and understand the finance models of various, spare parts businesses or small fleet owners, etc. And I quickly learned that the businesses, if they were doing without any major shocks, actually could do well. But the challenge was when any shock came, there was never a cushion or a reserve built into the company or into the business which the small entrepreneur was running. My personal belief is we from the CA profession have actually got to be that cushion, or that I would call it a proactive cushion, to prevent that shock from happening. How do we de-risk the business model from day one? How do we make sure that there is not excess leverage in that system? What is it that we in India can create as a unique model for the small entrepreneur? I'll give you again few examples. When we started the supply chain business, we had a choice. We could run the trucks ourselves, or we could partner with people who will run the trucks for us. I was very passionate that, having come from this transport sector, that we should not actually be doing it ourselves, because as a large player, once you start doing it, then you're never going to allow the smaller player to operate. So can we actually build a partnership model where you start working with the small truckers who are willing to run the vehicles, but you support them with the business? And as we did that, we quickly realized we had to identify partners who were financially savvy, who were willing to actually build a necessary cushion for their businesses when things went down. Because as businesses, we found that it is never a straight road. You have ups and downs on a continuous basis. And as we built that model, we realized that maybe more than, I would say, 70-80% of the people whom we started working with first, we had to change because they did not have that risk safety measures built in their financial modeling. And that was something which we could not, I would say, adjust with and make sure that we are able to reach a level or a stage that we could work with those people. So for me, I think the learning I took away was, obviously they had all the necessary finance support, but while we could provide them basic finance support, the analytical skill and the ability to mitigate risk and plan for the bad day was something which the profession, or we from the profession, could actually be playing a role with in the business, especially when it's a small business. And I already gave you the example of this large business. Then the third aspect of the professionals in business is actually got to do with what is the changes taking place. Now, I can tell you, coming from a finance background, that I have struggled with understanding the changes which have come with India AS 116 and India AS 115, and trying to see how my business is getting affected with that. Just to give you an idea, it could mean a difference between profit and loss to the extent of 100 crores if I make a mistake between the India AS 116 accounting and the methodology which I adopt for my business. Now, it's not about keeping abreast with the changes, but it is about proactively working and forecasting on what these changes are going to mean for my business and preparing for it. And again, I will give you my own example. We knew India AS 116 was coming maybe 18 months ago. And when did we start working its effect on our business? It was, I would call it maybe 2 months before it was introduced. And when did we actually get to see figures? 6 months after it was introduced. So I think the reality is we in the profession have to be what I would call the path bearers of the future, especially when it comes to supporting businesses. Now, this is when we are, I would call it professionals working in the business or professionals supporting a business, as I gave the example of a small business to be. So the question which I think I am posing to all of us today, as well as the future question, is what is it that needs to change? And if you ask me, it is not about keeping abreast just with technical knowledge or etc. But can we develop a unique model with which we can work with from our Indian context? And what do I mean by that? Now, typically, if you go to banks or a lending institution, you will be told in the past it all used to be debt by equity, or there's a current ratio 1.33, whatever it is. Today, people have started speaking about debt by EBITDA. What is your cash flows going to be? How are you going to be able to repay back the loans using the cash flow generation of the businesses, etc. Now, it's not a change, but can we, from the profession in India, from the SIRC, actually build up a model which we believe is suitable for the small entrepreneurs or the people with whom we work with? And then can we go to the lending institutions and tell them, this is why we believe this will work, and can we work with you so that you support us? Again, I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. The truck financing business model. Typically, if you look at the truck owner, he will say that I am actually running the truck, using the cash flow, and on the resale of the truck, I'll be able to repay back the loan. Now, 90% of the time it works. 10% of the time, the resale of the truck goes down. I'll give you an example. In 2015, the resale price of the truck dropped by about 30%. So what happened? Almost 30% of the operators went out of business. Now, if I was looking at their financials, the model I would have developed for them would have been to build in a cushion or build in an enhancement in the cost of financing to allow for that support. Now, if you go to the banks with that built into your model, I'm 100% sure even the first-time entrepreneur will be able to get a financing done. Now, that's what I would call a unique tool which we from the profession can develop to support the business. Not just, people say, oh, CFO should be a partner of the CEO, they should work with the business, etc. But I think it is not just about understanding strategy. It is about, can we develop a model which will work for us, and especially from an Indian context, especially from a small-time entrepreneur context, and can we make it a successful business model for both of us to prosper? And the last point I will leave you with is, when I talk about the strategy of the business and how do we work together, the biggest problem I have faced is that the strategy will be separate and the numbers will be separate. Then somebody will actually come together and you will pay a huge cost to, if it was a CA, maybe I wouldn't mind, but if it is a non-CA person who comes in and then tells you how to tie in the numbers with that strategy. What do I mean by that? You will say my margins have gone up on a regular basis, but actually you will find that it's a mixed variance which has caused that margin to go up. So each of those are what I would call linked with your strategic aspect of growth, strategic aspect of risk management, and last but not the least, strategic aspect of raising equity or funding or financing, as the case may be. So if we are to be successful in that path, I think the time has come for the professionals in business to actually change the way in which businesses are perceived. They have to be the path bearers, as I said. They have to be actually coming forward to make the change in a way in which business actually starts thinking about this differently. And I think we are uniquely placed because we are actually interacting with what I would call the smallest entrepreneur or the first time entrepreneur to the largest business people. And without us, they cannot survive. But if we look at our function as the reactive function, then I think, we are waiting for somebody else in the world to make the rules. And I don't know, maybe India the 116 itself could have been different if we had made the rules. But I mean, I'm jumping or expecting too much out of it. But that's something which I think I would talk about as professionals in business. Let me now move to the second part of what I wanted to speak about, which was the profession as a business. And I'm going to be a little bit provocative. I think Vijay Kumar already mentioned saying that, professionals are supposed to be managed by ethics. Therefore, there is no marketing. There is therefore, no need to do anything which businesses need to do because businesses are for profit. I'm sorry to say, I mean, if I were a professional, I would believe that I still should have profit as a motive, not because I want, not because it's bad, but because I believe if I make profit, then I'm utilizing it for the better of maybe the profession itself. Nothing prevents me from doing that. Therefore, for me, I think we have to change the paradigm in a completely different manner. And what do I mean by that? I heard the Prime Minister in one of the CII events speak about how are we going to build a brand of, chartered accountants from India? How do we create the next global multinational chartered accountant firm out of India, etc.? I mean, they are wonderful vision for us to have. But how do we actually start transforming it in the first and the smallest manner possible? The first question for me is, how are we actually being perceived? And this is where the challenge of not marketing begins. So I will give you my own example. And I'm not saying this against any large firms. I'm just giving as an example. So if I went today to raise money from private equity, or for that matter, any large loan from a lender, I'll be asked, do you have Big 4, Big 7, Big 10, whatever nomenclature you use as an auditor? And if you don't have, then maybe, we would like to do a far more diligent view or approach to your financials. Now, my belief, and I have interacted obviously with many Indian firms who I think are as good or as bad as the so-called Big 4, Big 10, Big 20, whatever you want to call it. So the question for me here is, why is that perception then? And my view is that perception is because we have not been allowed to build a brand. We are professionals, we cannot go and market ourselves, but as a professional, why not have a brand? Now that same brand is already anyway built. I mean, I know many Indian names whom, you would look to as one of the best professional firms whom you will go to for advice, etc. But that visibility as a brand is missing because you have, or the profession is limited to what I would call accounting activities or auditing activities. However, just leave the auditing out for a minute. The question for me is, what are the other ancillary revenues which the CAs as a profession want to do in the business? So if I look at it and say, my percentage of audit fees is X, my ancillary revenues is 50%, 100%, 200% of X, then I believe I have a business established. I can start building a brand. I use that brand then obviously to also further my audit profession or my supporting the entrepreneurial profession. In fact, I would call the second aspect of it as being an add-on, and the future as being not just an accounting or an auditing tool, but like I said, a business model support tool. So that if I look at as the base, and as being professionals, can we actually convert the professional into a business professional model? Can we build a brand of the profession? Can we build the brand not of the firm, but of the approach to business which a firm adopts. And like I said, it's not about the quality of auditing which I'm speaking of, or it's not about the quality of work which I'm speaking of. It is about the perception of the companies. In fact, I was in a very recent conversation with a big chartered accounting firm in Mumbai, and I was asking the partner there, a lady, saying that, can you actually go and speak to all of the larger private equity investors and big investors who are coming into India and explain to them as to why you or your firms like you are as good as any international firm with which they may want to work with, rather than saying that you as an Indian firm should go and tie up or become part of a larger multinational firm or an international firm. So that for me is also an essential ingredient if you want to start converting the profession into a business. Let me come to the second element of it. If I go to an investment bank, tell me which Indian audit firm or even Indian practitioner, forget, I'm not talking about a firm even, which Indian practitioner they would be recommending. I have actually found many investment banks in India use all of us, all of CAs who are in profession for various works. But they will never go and tell a client, hey, this is somebody with whom you can work with to prepare your organization, to make it ready, etc., for fundraising, as the case may be. And why is that so? Because we don't have a formal partnership, we don't have a formal link, and I don't know whether it is allowed as per the CA charter, but I think if it is not so, then I think we must make the change. Why am I saying this? Because if you are going to get ancillary revenues, if you are going to have an ability to grow into what I would call a much larger rounded business practice than just an accounting function, that's the only way by which we can further enhance it. Tomorrow, can we tie up with legal firms? I have seen many audit practices who come to us and say, can we actually build a risk management profile for you? Can we do a due diligence for you? Can we work with you in terms of building a model which actually can help you when you go and present your business case to an outsider? So it is not that we are not capable. It is not that we don't know. All of us know it. But how do we formalize it? And I think the first step or the first change has to be to start allowing the professionals to convert into a business. And I'm not saying not just for the sake of making profit, but for the sake of creating value for the people whom we work with. And that for me is the best and most noblest step which we in the profession can take. And that automatically will enable us into moving into a different level of relationship with the people with whom we work for. The second aspect which I would like to talk about, I think Vijay Kumar also mentioned that briefly. He was talking about digital tools for auditing. I am actually having even more far-reaching thought which I would like to leave the listeners and viewers with. And that for me is to say, can we actually set up a platform of like-minded firms? Firms who have 20 clients, firms who have 100 clients, and all of them come together into one platform, create a national grid, and then start working with clients. And when I mean clients, it doesn't mean necessarily just large multinational companies. It could be, like I said, any small company which wants to grow. And I have found that typically at some point of time when you reach scale, you say, okay, now I want to evolve into a global brand. And that's what I want to prevent by creating what I would call this partnership approach, where like-minded firms start coming together, start being seen as one integral whole. And of course, obviously, we know many firms who are tied up with international firms, but my view is, can we create an Indian conglomerate of like-minded firms to come together to get the scale and get the reach, which otherwise would be lacking from our approach. The third aspect of it is, how can we actually create this as a virtual partnership? What do I mean by virtual partnership? It does not mean that the partners or the people, professionals who form the firm come together, but it could mean that data is being shared in terms of best practices, in terms of learnings across audit learnings, in terms of ways in which information is being shared. And last but not the least, can we actually start looking at the models of financial numbers which I was speaking of, and what I would call the unique Indian model of support which I was explaining earlier, can we start working together as CAs to create this virtual platform? Can it be what I would call branded as a CA platform, not for people to come together alone, but also to build, like I said, knowledge base or a knowledge tool, which then becomes unique. I believe the CA profession or the professionals have a huge database. What is that database of? What works in an entrepreneur? What doesn't work in a business? What works, or what are the worst practices which you see across companies which you audit or which you work with? What are the best practices which you see across companies which you work with? Can you bring that into this virtual platform? And can we start sharing knowledge which otherwise is resident in what I would call localized firms or localized geographies? Would firms lose by sharing this? I don't think so. I mean, on one side we are saying, you know, we have our ethics and therefore we can't market. Then we say we won't share information. Then I don't see, I mean, I see that as a contradiction. So as I said, I thought I will be provocative by saying that there is an unique opportunity for, and again, sorry, just let me step back for a minute. Yeah, I think I have time. In terms of looking at it and saying, can we actually create this platform as, and I mean, it could be SIRC or it could be, you know, the entire institute in India, but can it be again a brand which we can build up together? And if that brand is built up, then that could also help us sustain and show that the profession in India has actually created a unique platform which otherwise is not available. And I'll just explain one more example as to what I mean by this. If you look at, I mean, again, picking logistics as an example because I'm comfortable with it, or let me pick spare parts. So there are about 20 million spare parts which are possible to be fitted into various cars. There is no one company which has the full database of this entire 20 million spare parts. So what do people do? They start collaborating together to come and try to bring together this knowledge, and again, virtually. And today, if you look at it, I think surprisingly, it is the Asian countries who have taken the lead to build this platform. Similarly, like I said, whether it is auditing practices or whether it is accounting practices or last but not the least, business models, can the CA profession take the lead to not just become a business, but build this platform of unique knowledge, which then others will subscribe to, which others will participate in, and in a way that also becomes a revenue generator for all of those who subscribe to that platform. I don't mean this in a what I would call utopian way. I think it's very practical. You could start with auditing, then you move on to, you know, the accounting profession and also the business models which we spoke about. So let me then come to my summary. My view is that if we look at business and profession as two separate tracks, I think we'll make the biggest mistake. We from the CA profession have to necessarily look at ourselves both as business entrepreneurs and business entrepreneurs support function. And if we bring the bridge between the two, I think that would be actually the way we can support the growth of this sector and make a huge difference to not just the businesses we work with, but the society in itself. And that I think is, a blessing for us. I think everybody is dependent on us. And if we can create that knowledge, and if we can create that database, if we can use that database to the benefit of the people whom we are going to work with in the future and whom we have been working with in the past, using the knowledge from whom we have been working with in the past, then I think the profession actually attains its height. And I mean it in a true way. I mean, all the doyens in this profession, moment you want to make a decision, you just say, can I speak to so-and-so, get his opinion before I do it. I mean, we, for example, when India is 116 came, we used to go to our auditors and say, I'm going to make, take a property on this lease. Are you okay with the way in which I'm approaching it? Because it's a very big decision for me. If I don't do it, then I will have a problem. And you get the view of them and do it. Now, if that was available as a service, if that was available as a way by which people could access, just look at the wealth of knowledge which all the firms in this country would have created. Just look at the wealth of knowledge which we could tap. Just look at the potential revenues we are missing out from. You just say for every opinion which you are picking from the database I'm building up in this digitally enabled platform, there would be whatever, depending on the difficulty of the opinion, it could be starting from 1,000 rupees to a lakh of rupees. So, you could just have a huge revenue generating potential, which I leave it to the profession to decide whether, oh no, we don't want to get into it as a business. Then I think I would say the CA Institute can benefit from it. If we believe that the people who are professionals should benefit from it, then I would advocate that. Then that's a huge benefit which people can share together, because there is going to be no one person knows all. That for me is how I would see business and profession coming together, the future becoming something which we can actually create a differentiating model for business and work with business and create the partnership as a win-win for both. And the very last message I want to leave you with is, are we going to, okay, let me step back. I was actually asked a question because, I come from a fourth generation family member. So I was asked the question, do you want to live on the brand or do you want to build the brand? And because I said I want to build the brand, I wanted to start something new. And that's why I started TVS Supply Chain Solutions and built it. So the question I would leave my fellow CA professionals with is, are we going to live on what is the best practices of the past, or are we going to build the new paradigm where business and profession will come together and we will, in a way, learn from the past but build the future for ourselves? If we in the profession believe that the future is something we are going to make happen, then at least I have just given you a few ideas. I'm not the best person to give all the ideas, or I don't know. In fact, I don't even know whether these ideas will work, but I'm sure we can create the future which we from the profession want to achieve. That for me is, I think, the crucial takeaway. It's not about building the brand of a firm. It's about building the brand of our association with the businesses we will work with, and how do we benefit from it. And is there a different model of approach which other parts of the world have not adopted? That is a unique Indian model which we can create, support the small-time entrepreneurs, which again is a very unique Indian, or I would say Asian or Indian model, which we have, and build on that. So maybe the Western countries or the rest of the world will learn from what we have brought to the table. It's not utopian. I believe it can be done, but the effort has to be put in. And that's what I would urge my fellow professionals to be working with. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I was told this is my third time where I have participated. And so thank you again to give me a part of this virtual experience and being here with all of you. Wish you all the best. I know post-COVID opportunities are going to be huge, whether it be in restructuring businesses or in supporting people who have had difficulties or helping in the next phase of growth. I was just telling people that my belief is that we are coming out of the post-COVID scenario much more positively or much more strongly than at least I believed when situation started worsening in March. So I think there is a great future for us to seize. And post-COVID, maybe there's an opportunity for us to seize it with a different business model than what we have been using in the past. And sorry for using the word business model, because I believe we in the profession have to also think of ourselves as business people. Thank you. And once again, congratulations to the SIRC for making this event such a wonderful one. Thank you and all the best.
So I take great pleasure in thanking you for coming here in spite of all odds, and having listening to you. I don't know if I have the experience to say this, but the change of paradigm, be it proactively, consistent in assessing the risk or to mitigate the risk, and be it also change into an Indian business model, was something very, very bold, and it's resonating, in my mind. I'm sure it will be for the members as well. Thank you for placing such a bold thought to us in front of us. Thank you so much, sir. May I now request CA Pradeep, member of steering committee, to present a memento.
Thank Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, this is also. Okay, thank you.
Is there anything entertaining?